My name is Eero Teerikorpi. I'm the founder and CEO of Continuent. Some of you may have seen the Continuent name. We've been around 20 years in one form or another. We are focusing on continuous operation using MySQL databases. We have had basically three generations of solutions, and our first solution back in early 2000 actually was born out on a synchronous replication solution, not unlike Kalera. And the team behind the Kalera actually used to work for me. And I made a conscious decision to abandon synchronous replication route. It has its own benefits, but we felt that asynchronous solution actually scales better and it's more reliable in many ways. And anybody who has read the most recent Jepsen report may also be curious about the internals of Kalera. So if you haven't seen that and you are using Kalera, you may want to check it out. Continuent itself, we have been focusing on 24/7, 365 operation. We have a large software as a service vendors, e-commerce, financial services, telecommunication customers. Like good example is Adobe. Adobe Sign runs on our platform. It's effectively MySQL, but we provide the highly available database clusters. Adobe Marketo, same way. They use the pod architecture. They have like 300, 400 of them catering thousands of their customers. And once again, it's more about the continuous operation. And today when I'm talking about AI-assisted database operation, our mind goes back to kind of how we feel about it. And it is a business critical, it's a mission critical. And it's like the question is that would I want to let AI run an airplane that I'm flying? I'm not quite ready for that. Actually, I had an interesting chat with my elder brother. He's 71, and I'm going next week to Finland. He offered to take me and fly to the eastern part of Finland to meet my old father. And I said, thank you, but no, he's 71 with the heart condition. So we have to make sure that whenever we take the risks, they are well calculated and well assessed. The interesting news maybe is that I don't know how many Postgres users are in this audience, but we used to have a solution 2006, 2009 for the Postgres audience as well, but we never could gain a traction for the commercially, and we abandoned that and focused solely on MySQL, MariaDB, and Percona server customers. But now we feel that, especially when we've seen the transition, the Postgres utilization, and more importantly, now we have something similar to Binlog that we can actually tap in. There's a logical replication, and this is what we are using the benefit of our solutions. And our solutions are built on three main components. One is that the proxy layer. Effectively, we created the first MySQL database proxy back in 2003 called MyOCities open source project, and we have been building proxies ever since. Many of you may use a proxy SQL. Our own proxy is not unlike, but it's tightly integrated with our solution, so that's why it has its own benefits when using. We created the Tungsten Replicator, which provided the first global transaction ID for the MySQL marketplace. This was back in 2009, so that we are kind of being ahead of the curve in many ways, but it only in the benefit of our own solution that we integrated. And the key component which relates to today's talks is the Tungsten Manager. It's a basically business rules based on engine that makes decisions. So we have intelligent components and we run these systems with the highly intelligent way, but not necessarily always with the artificial intelligence included. And I actually believe that the real intelligence is ultimately better in many cases when you make the decision. But there is a role for the AI as well. And we've seen this in a number of places, but it's kind of, you can observe things, you can diagnose things, you can make recommendations based on AI. Like what we do is that we have our own log files. Nowadays, it's much easier, faster, review any error situation and get the AI to make recommendations. What could be the root cause, and then we can actually attack the issue if it's the bug, which almost seldom is when we think about in our customer environment. 95, 99% cases, our customers actually, there's a human error that actually created the situation. And when you think about, I recently saw that the AI may be 82% accurate making decision on database operation. Human, maybe 93%. This rules engine actually could be 100%, assuming it has all the data available to make the decision correctly. But the AI is definitely creeping in. But once again, we have to be careful about what we actually allow it to do and how we can best benefit from it. And these are the kind of things that we see coming across what AI can already pinpoint focus, but actually making operational decision, for example, changing the failover on the primary to replica, that may be not one of those, not yet, at least. But, excuse me, I'm getting a little cold here. So that when we think about AI, if AI can detect things and it can spin up, for example, application server, so it can create some other kind of observe that maybe the disks is running out of space and kind of make a decision to increase the disk space. But when you are thinking about the database operation, that's far more difficult decision-making process because it may impact on actually availability of the system. It may impact on the data consistencies. It may impact on the actually real revenue streams that when people are considering and running these. So there's definitely an outcome risk that when you try to apply some sort of a probabilistic kind of a prediction of the environment, and kind of you see the certain things that may point to a problem, but and whatever AI decides as a solution may not be a correct one. This is an example of the kind of design from the point of view that how we offer our solution. Our typical implementation is 3-node cluster. 3 is to build the quorum. Otherwise, it could be 5. But you want to have an odd number of the units to make the proper decisions. But if you let, for example, AI to observe that, okay, primary latency is gone up, so that points at as if there might be a problem. And then you make certain assumption about that, and you decide to discard the primary database. And then you look around and you see healthy enough node that you want to do the failover, and you actually execute the failover. Yeah, it's plausible to do all these steps. Only to come to find out that this particular replica was too far behind, and it never got certain part of the transactions that actually were already in the primary, and poof, you actually just lost quite a bit of data potentially. So this is kind of decisions you do not want to let AI do. And when we do this, basically the same scenario, there is a group communication protocol between the nodes, and we detect all the time state and availability of the node. If for whatever reason primary is out, there is a coordinator between the 3 nodes that knows which one of the replicas is the furthest ahead. It also knows that what was the last transaction that was applied. It knows how many transactions, because we maintain what we call epoch number, is still yet to be applied. And assuming the primary failed in such fashion that data had already been transferred to the replica to be applied, we can actually apply all those missing transactions, and only after that make the decision that promote the new primary. No data loss. And it can happen in a sub-second. Obviously, it depends on the transaction load, how long it takes, but you want to do that. And in this case, what really important part comes in the picture is the proxy, the connectivity layer. Because connectivity layer realizes primary is gone, it can stop the traffic, halt the traffic, wait the underlying system to restructure. We know then what is the new primary, and off we go and open up the traffic again. So this is the intelligence that works really well, and there's no role for AI in that case. It's just kind of a matter of making sure. Unfortunately, rules can only extend as far as you can think what all kind of scenarios can happen. So there's always corner cases. There's always kind of situations that you can't really know exactly what was the root cause. And so there will be an element for the AI to try to understand what happened, but there's also an element for the human to step in and take an action. So from our point of view, these are the areas that you really don't want to automate with the AI, at least not yet. This is definitely kind of, this comes to the fact that they're like promoting a new primary without knowing what the state is, the replica. If you are thinking about the restructuring the topology, because in our cluster cases, we can create basically an active type of a clusters with geographic distribution. And if you lose one site, how do you coordinate the traffic in that point? If you have an active passive system, that's also another deployment model. There is a potential element for the failover, site level failover. You basically move on traffic from one site to another site. But like in our own environments, that recommendation for our customers, site level failover should never happen automatically. We can do the local primary promotion automatically on the fly with the little concern. Site level, we don't know actually what triggered the issue. It could be that some sort of intermediate network connectivity issue that triggered the whole thing. And then when you start moving the workload on the other side, that may happen again and it start oscillating, so that you actually make the whole system much worse. So when we are doing the site level transition, once again, this is not to be done rules-based, it's not to be done by AI, it's actually better to human to hit the, yes, let's do it. And then you can do it automatic fashion, so it helps. So there's a role for the interpret the situation, but the authority can really transfer with the AI-based decision-making processes. So the real question is that where does AI have a role? Where's the role for the rules? Where's the role for the human in this whole scenario? And we see this like a triangle, the Holy Trinity. So there's the elements of what people should be doing. There's elements what the rules should be doing. There's elements that AI can do, but neither one of them can really do alone. Most reliable source obviously is the human, the DBA, but then he has a limitation. He's not available 24/7. And whenever the situation gets heated, there's easily make mistakes. And with the limited amount of information available, we make the wrong conclusions. And even if that person can't always make the right decision. But when you combine these elements together, you have a much tighter system. Then the AI steps in as a helper, not a decision maker. And it's basically, it can guide the rules engine to act without the human intervention. And then you may want to create these elements that where you allow also the humans to step in and decide what to do, when to do, how to do. And this is kind of the examples that what the rules engines are best fit to do, so that we can actually know that you can make a decision between two nodes. If you have a larger system, you obviously have a more decision elements to be made there. If you have a secondary side, that kind of there's decision tree grows and grows and grows, and then but the rules you still can manage them with high level accuracy. Routing, this question comes to the element of that if you have a system that one of the replicas falls behind, are you still guiding traffic to that? Or what's the threshold? You can put there a threshold that, okay, if this is too far behind, don't send anything. But this is maybe already an area that the AI could step in. Instead of giving a hard rules, we can actually have a more flexible rules depending on the whole system's health and traffic volumes, allowing things to still run smoothly. But there are cases that when the read needs to be based on the most up-to-date information, then there has to be a decision to guide this request, the primary, instead of any replicas. So that those are kind of elements and things we can manage on the rules levels once again, if the rules are correctly applied on the connectivity layer level. And then obviously there's a big picture rules that if you have a multi-site clusters, then our systems the biggest ones that we have deployed have reached that 5 data centers updating the databases across the globe. We had it to Singapore, was Tokyo, Frankfurt, New York, and Seattle. This was for the Riot Games, providing basically they locking when you logged into the game, entry point for the 300 million users, and they basically have been updated globally. So it's a pretty impressive deployment in general. And we have this similar kind of things taking place that very typically it's more like the US West, US East, and Europe type of setup for some of our financial services customers. And then humans in this whole setup, kind of, they initially define policies, then decide kind of a lot of the important steps along the way, and then refine. So that you have this kind of a continuous loop improving the setup. And AI, in our view, in my view, it's really good at making kind of an interpretation of the large amount of data. It can make the recommendation, but then you do not necessarily want to give the authority actually act upon that. You would rather kind of hand it to the rules engine, or you hand it back to human. There are certain things that we can increasingly trust AI to make the proper, correct decision. The more it learns about the environment, the systems, and how it behaves, then you can allow that. But then for the most part, the strict rule is actually better than just a probabilistic kind of action by the AI itself. But we definitely see it kind of helping our team and our customers when they are using the solution, when we actually allow AI to scan through the log files and kind of monitoring the whole system, and then guiding them in the right decision about the sizing of the things, how big CPU, compute units you have, how much memory you need to have, and the kind of what kind of disk elements you have. So all of those kind of things, which impact on the performance, the AI can observe, recommend, and provide information, and then act upon those that are safe, and then let either rules or the humans make the decision on the more critical. So guardrails. So basically, you always start from the state. Then you state basically the safety, eligibility, authority, and verification. This is kind of the steps that you want to create the AI-based execution in your system. And whenever there is any doubt, the human should be stepped in, alerted, kind of part of the mix, and instead of let it run. We've seen this is already happening when you give AI reins, deleting the whole databases. So this is one example that AI-assisted diagnosis on replication lag, for example. So then there is certain signals we can detect, monitor. AI tap into those signals and then identifies likely cause. And then you can score the confidence of what issue may be. And then you have these kind of steps that basically then either you allow the rules engine to kick in and make the rest, or then you let the human make the final decision, depending on the severity of the and what consequences there may be for the actions once again. So traditionally, much higher risk for incorrect actions with the AI and guardrails. You most likely get faster, more precise response and result in your environment and system. And then this is similar kind of things that when you have a replication lag and what decisions you make. So obviously you can observe once again how far behind replica is from the primary database, and then you can have strict rules on the rules engine together with the connectivity layer to deciding that kind of are we routing any traffic to the replica or not. And then, but the AI can here, it can help basically detect what's the risk on the stale reads, and then how do we do the routing for the actually fresh ones, whether it goes in another replica or whether we send it back to the primary. This is kind of one of those things that when you have a closed loop system and you can allow that an AI make decisions, and maybe the safest way to do it at times is to route everything to primary and let the replicas catch up. Obviously that drops the overall update performance of the primary database at that point, but it's still safer. So that you have to always balance the kind of what's the safest route and what's the most accurate route. And depending, obviously, once again, that in our case, when there's, for example, a credit card transaction processing entity, and they do not allow any stale reads. And so the system has to be designed on that. When we are dealing with someone like the Marketo, which is more about the marketing analytics, it's more of a high volume data, which then there's individual transactions may not be quite that critical, or whether they are a little further behind, that doesn't matter. But in that use case, it's more about just being able to handle the large masses of data and providing 24/7 continuity. So once again, there's a scale. So these are the kind of our roadmap for the safe AI integration, so that the know the system state, rules, enforce, limits, AI recommendations, and then keep the human authority for now, I think then for quite some time. So there will be a definite role. I'm not predicting damages of the DPAs anytime soon, but I'm seeing on the field, obviously, that as the more systems are being deployed, younger people are entering the field. They may not have the wealth of the experience of the running database system. They don't know what the MySQL inside out. When I looked at the 10 years back or 20 years back, the initial guys, they were much deeper in the database. They actually understood what the database is and what it does. Current DPAs do not necessarily know. So this is where we actually can help can keep their hand and provide them something that's useful. So then even the less qualified DPAs can with confidence manage databases. But obviously, when you are fine-tuning things, then the knowledge level needs to be much higher, which makes our life a little bit more difficult. But then what we end up doing is we step in and we help them, and whenever we need to guide them, because it's our benefit also that our customer system runs better. So even if the DPA knowledge may have gone down in our customers, then we try to kind of make sure that the system still remains on the right level. But this is, and then once again, you loop this verify, audit, and refine, and kind of basically do this over again whenever it's needed, especially when the workloads change over the time. Takeaways: AI does belong database operation. Do not hand the keys. High consequence actions requires the good decision and really strict rules making engine, and then you want individual to be available and make the ultimate call whenever there's a high consequence issues. But part of this is I don't know if it sounds bleak or I'm not hopeful enough about the AI's presence on database automation and managing databases. There is one more thing, right? Like what the Steve Jobs always like to say. I've been working on the past year or so on something that called ORI. It's effectively foundationally same technology that Tungsten has built over 20 years about the database clustering, but we are building on a new database as a service solution with the mindset of the bring your own cloud and adding on an AI-assisted layer on top of that. Idea is that while our existing clustering solution is somewhat challenging for the smaller customers to maintain, deploy, install, we provide the environment effectively that allows them to use this technology at far more lower skill level, far more lower cost level. And then by adding kind of elements of the AI-assisted elements, this is a company based in Finland. It is geared more towards the European market. which is the most concerned about the data sovereignty and maintaining the control of your own data. So they are keen on open source technologies. They are keen on the privacy issues. They are keen on actually controlling the data. So this is designed for that in mind. But we also adding an additional elements. We are introducing a open source like business model on this database as a service, and we are going to offer the base level solution free of charge, which should make it pretty interesting and attractive, and will be available for MySQL, MariaDB, and PostgreSQL. And it's available later this year. Thank you, everybody. Any questions? It's as a database as a service, so there is no code distribution. There will be elements of that will be source available with the kind of idea of, if you think about things, that we have a continuing tungsten clustering is a proprietary license. It's a foundation of that the solution is based on the existing battle-tested, proven solution. The difference with our current solution is that when we basically use always a 3-node cluster as a baseline, this new solution will be based on 2 nodes and witness, which basically makes it more cost-effective, lowers the compute cost, but still provide you the same level of availability. And then the control plane that access provides you the kind of a ability to deploy, manage the whole system, so that will be more on source available license model. Witness is part of, because this is bring your own cloud concept. So what we do is that there is, you provide us within our concept, your cloud credentials. We spun up 2 database size instances and then 1 micro instance that the witness is residing. So this is effectively running on your environment. We could externalize the witness as well, but then we are introducing certain liability for that, so that the network connectivity. So it actually makes sense to run on your own environment.
Framework to introduce AI.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned junior DBAs that don't know, are you concerned when they have to do the approval phase? Bias to approve?
There's always a concern for that, yes. Whenever you introduce human, and if they don't, you can only do the best, but then you have to kind of set in your own company certain kind of rules inside as well, that who can do what level decisions, so that if you are about to do a site level transition decision, that may not be something that you want to allow even the lower level DBA to do that decision. So that he or she has to escalate that somewhere higher. Obviously, time is in essence, that's kind of always the kind of problem, because you deal with it when you do a immediate local failover, it's no disruption. When you start thinking about the site level, yes, there is a delay when you introduce human in the factor. But if you allow that run freely, that may be much worse scenario. So in certain cases, you have to accept that there is a delay, but you are then happy to know whenever you call that decision, it actually is solid and it's going to work. Correct. Yeah, we have something called that. We have basically 3 deployment models for the multi-site system. One is the active passive. So we have a one side active, one is passive available, and we just trigger that. So it's a relay, effectively acting primary on the secondary side. But all the updates is. And then we have active, when you can actually have a multiple sites all writing, but then you have to have something like a key offset. Make sure that we are not doing conflict resolution, so it's an applications function. But then we have something called dynamic active that allows us to actually have these members of this one cluster to be remotely distributed. And that you can do the basically immediate sub-second credible decision on the failover, even on the site level with using that. Some of our customers use that when they want to have a really fast failover on the site level. But that's operationally far more difficult to manage. So you really have to have a good team behind that they understand what they do. Correct. Yeah, the rules engine can make the decision in certain cases, and the human can make the decision. That's our point, is that you can actually, if you see, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. All right, thank you. It's time.